Joining us now, Liz Peek. She's also in New York from the Fiscal Times. She's with us live. Liz, good to have you.
Good morning and welcome to New York.
I know, it's always good to be here. Now, let's get to this primary tomorrow. Let's just start there. Let's go right to it. Looks like a big victory for Trump and kind of an easy win for Hillary. How do you see it?
I think you've summed it up pretty well. I think Trump rolls to victory here. He's put a lot of energy and resources into winning New York. It's sort of like Marco Rubio was to Florida and John Kasich to Ohio. Trump needed to win New York big time, not just for the 90-plus delegates or 80 to 90 that he may get out of this contest, but also just to show that he is really solid in his home state. So, yes, he's going to do well, but, at the same time, while he's been focused here, Cruz has been out there lining up delegates in all these states like Colorado and Wyoming where Trump really has been a no-show. So, those are not insignificant numbers, as you know, John. And little by little, Cruz is kind of showing that his very effective ground game is helping, and it's not allowing Trump to kind of take off.
So what do you think about these? The Trump team complaining about voter list selection processes, things like that. And I get where they're coming from in one way because I don't really like it either. I would rather there be a primary and have the voters involved. But these are their internal rules. And Colorado or Wyoming, they're an independent private organization. They can do whatever they want, right?
That's exactly right. And, Reince Priebus was all over the morning talk shows yesterday, rightly pointing out that these rules have been in effect for a year. It's not like they saw Trump coming and changed the rules to prevent him from getting the nomination. Trump, is borderline now making too much of this system being rigged, et cetera, because as you know, some of the rules have been very helpful to him. There have been states where, like Florida, I think he won, I'm going to make this 5% of the vote, and he got much bigger percent of the delegates. So, not all the rules have been disadvantageous to Trump. He just is harping on the ones that have been, and I think that story gets a little stale. But, look, Trump supporters are really fired up, and they think things rigged. So just like Bernie Sanders can yell about the superdelegates, and I'm sure he will at some point, this feeds red meat to the people who are pretty disenfranchised and angry. So, I think the bad news is it's really hard to see after the nomination is done, after that process is complete, the kind of rapprochement that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama had in 2008, which really allowed the Democrats to come together and win that election.
Look, there's no question about it. And you're right. A lot of, I think, some of the rhetoric on Trump saying it's rigged is aimed at firing up his base. No question about that. But really, the only area where I think they had a very solid argument was in Louisiana, where they won a percentage of the delegates based on the primary there, and then they came in and elected people in the back door and changed the outcome from what the voters wanted on the first ballot. Now, the thing is, on the second ballot, if there is a second ballot, these rules are clear. You have to win those delegates, and a lot of these outsiders don't know how to do that. And I tell the story, Liz, all the time. I've got a team running for a national delegate in my congressional district in Virginia, which has made me have to go through the process of how do you get to be a delegate, how do you win, how do you get elected, what's the process. And I mean, let me just say, it's not set up for the casual outsider, okay? It's set up for the inside. Yeah. It's set up to make it almost impossible for somebody from the outside to figure this out and then get the resources together in order to beat the establishment. But I'm going to win, and so is my team. So it can be done, but it's not easy. I want to get to Bernie Sanders. I thought he had a great debate Thursday night, took the gloves off to a certain extent. My friends were telling me he had a rally in Washington Park a week ago. 30,000 people turned out, but he's still down to Hillary in New York. Big. Why?
Well, look, this is Hillary's state. She has enormous resources here. and they've been out in force. I mean, I don't know if you've run into people handing out leaflets and stuff.
Yes.
I've gotten that from Hillary people, but nobody else. So I think she has worked very hard. Again, this is sort of a test case for her. And the success of Hillary in New York is going to go a long way towards solidifying her kind of unassailable advantage. Like you, I think that the outcome tomorrow might be a little closer than it's predicted, but I think she wins.
Yeah, and the Sanders people were telling me last night that, our narrative is if we can get under a double digit, we can get to single digits, that's like a really good sign. And I mean, my reaction to that is you're losing. You got to win a big getting to single digits, I don't know what that means. That's like, me being at a baseball tournament in a championship game and saying, well, if we can lose by under 5, I mean, you lose.
Yeah.
I don't see where that makes any sense.
Well, I think, look, Bernie Sanders is like the fly in Hillary's ointment, and she would like to get rid of him. He's sticking around because he's been very successful in raising money, more than she has, in fact. And I think from his point of view, he is accomplishing this. He is pushing the party very hard to the left. I mean, definitely he's going to have a voice in the policy making of the Democratic Party going forward. He's not going to win the nomination, but, let's face it, Hillary has adopted more and more positions that are really not very mainstream just to counter Bernie Sanders. And so he's had a huge impact in this race. And if she loses in November, barring the FBI investigation and all the other sort of deus ex machina and, impacts of or events that could haunt her, it'll be because Bernie Sanders made her so extreme on the environment, on taxes, et cetera, that basically a lot of moderates are turned off. Now, if Republicans run Ted Cruz, all bets are off because that's going to be such a right-wing candidate. But he's had an impact in this race, and it just isn't showing up in the delegates.
Well, it isn't at all. I think it is. I don't think it's going to be 17. I think it could be single digit 9 or 8, but I don't see how that matters. I think,
No.
As a state that's an upset to turn this thing, I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow in New York. Liz, let's get to the turmoil in Brazil, where the president there impeached the lower house, people saying that there's corruption, the economy is a disaster. I know you follow this stuff very intensely. What's going to be the outcome, and what impact do you think that'll have on the markets?
Well, it looks as though there was in the House vote in Brazil that the Senate will almost assuredly decide to have a trial. All of this is sort of tragic because Brazil need to host the Olympics, which is a really big deal. And also it's kind of too bad because actually the current president, who is under siege, is actually not being accused of personal corruption or malfeasance so much as messing with the numbers in order to plug a budget deficit. The people accusing her are being accused of corruption. And, of course, the whole country has been engulfed with the Petrobras corruption for more than a year. And, almost definitely that's going to bear some fruit in terms of conviction. So, A, it's a mess. B, I think she does not survive. It's a real question about who succeeds her because the same charges being brought against her would probably apply to her vice president as well. But then, is this a political revolution such as we've seen in Argentina, for example? Maybe. I mean, maybe it's time that the leftist governments are kind of on their way out because they have failed the people and their policies have not worked, et cetera. We'll see. I mean, it's going to be a messy thing, though, to have her basically.
Total mess. Do you think she'll be impeached?
I think there's a good chance of it, yes.
Better than 50-50, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Liz, who are you voting for tomorrow?
Isn't that like asking how old I am? Aren't you supposed to be, a little more discreet?
Liz, I know how old you are. You're 39. I'm not interested in your age. You already know that. I'm interested to know who you're voting for tomorrow. I would predict Kasich, am I right?
I think I don't know. Honestly, I think you and I have talked about Trump a lot. I see a lot to admire in his campaign. Sometimes I'd like to box him around the ears and tell him to behave because he needs to do that. He needs to bring more credible authority and sort of sensibleness to his platform. But look, I think Trump could beat Hillary. I actually disagree with all the polling that shows that he gets crushed. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Kasich loses to Hillary despite, again, the polling because he's not a very interesting or charismatic character. And I don't like Ted Cruz. So I'll let you read from that what you will.
Liz, I've got you coming around. I'm so excited. I've been working on you for a year, Liz, since I first predicted Trump was going to win back in April, and now you're right there. You're a day away. I can feel it. You're going to vote for Trump. You know it's the right thing to do, Liz. I can feel it in my bones.
Well, let me tell you, I'm having a dinner party tonight, and I'm serving Trump Sauvignon Blanc. So there you go.
Okay, well, if you want to invite me, you have my email. I'm definitely open. Love to be at your dinner party and meet your famous husband, Jeffrey Peake. This is the John Fredericks Radio Network. We'll be right back.